think of tribulation, I think of Passover. And that's a good thought. Because I used to think tribulation was scary, ominous. It still is. I mean, that depends a lot on where you live, by the way. Because the logic is really simple. Get out of the cities. I mean, that's in summary. Matthew 24 says, go to the mountains. I think it's Matthew 24. Then it is in Revelation 12, and I think in 13, says desert wilderness. Talks about the cities being surrounded. Okay, so it's really an easy little formula. Get out of Dodge. Get out of the big cities. That's just the first thing about Passover time. And Passover time starts pre-tribulation, before when Jesus was saying, keep an eye out, watch. And look at the signs. And of course, they've always said that, they being anyone who reiterates what Jesus said. But it says earthquakes. In all candor, I've done a lot of analysis on earthquakes, and there's no earthquake uptick at all. Zero. So there's that, which isn't happening. Then there's wars and rumors of wars. That's totally happening. And we cannot say it's happening and it's always been happening. Not like what's happening now with the Red Horsemen or the United States. Like, it's the god of Mars, practically, the god of war, literally inside of Trump. So that's the Red Horseman with the huge sword that can take peace from the land. See, these are the things that we can just use as clues, Like, I would say then that it's not in the United States, better to be in places that are remote pretty soon. Why? Because it appears that that country led by Mars, Trump, is going to attack more Latin America. None of this is prophecy. This is just what he said, actually. Quite clearly has said. I mean, it goes global. Iran, put Greenland on the back burner. We'll get to that. We'll take that. So what I'm telling you is that we have what Jesus said, like, we can just watch the signs. And the signs right now for the United States internal, in cities especially, think of truly brown shirts that are ICE uniforms with no name tags, and anyone who has that uniform could take people off the street and no one can do anything, sincerely. This is obvious. They can be turned outward or they can be turned inward. That department was 20,000. Now it's at 100,000. It was increased legally, and then 33,000. You can check this if you do some creative intelligence work. You can see that 33,000 have been assigned to ICE. So back to the Passover, the time before tribulation, and of course during tribulation. It's really good news. It's really simple. You can just go to the wilderness, go to the desert, go to the mountains, go away from cities. This is the clear message of Jesus in Matthew 24, and actually reinforced by Revelation 12 and 13, I think, also, as I said before. So I mean, it's not all bad news. It's just, what are you going to do with the reality that is present? And most things you can see just by opening your eyes. What will happen in the United States, if Trump does what he says, which is to attack the neighbors, particularly, he said, Mexico, Colombia, working on Cuba right now, Nicaragua. So Greenland's on target. Iran has been warned. So in the United States, those who voted for Trump, they voted for no war, actually. And of course, those that voted for Kamala Harris voted for no war. So really, we have a situation where the public is not going to be happy, and is not happy, but will not be happy, I think, in the streets of what was the United States. And so then that will do the expected crackdown on what they'll call to be violence and mayhem in the street. And we need to, it's an insurrection. So then what happens is the people already have issues with, if you're brown skin going on the streets, even with a passport. It's really sad. I mean, it's just the way it is. So imagine if it's amplified and then people are protesting because people didn't vote for war. So then what happens to the protesters? I was born in 1960. I kind of remember the LA riots and definitely the Detroit riots because I was there during that summer in 1967. So the point is more of like, during the 60s and the 70s too, into anti-Vietnam War sentiment that really started to peak in early 70s when, first Robert F. Kennedy was shot. I remember that too, actually. Ambassador Hotel, and it was nighttime. And so what I'm telling everyone is that all we got to do is watch, There's more than enough signs. There's no earthquakes. The other things that it says pestilence and plagues. They're basically different. Pestilence could be just bugs and rats, which will occur with more war and stuff like that. And then plagues could be imposed plagues, biological warfare. COVID, hit in a mild way, controlled way, really. But those are the other kinds of plagues that would come from war. So, there's no alarm here. I'm not ringing an alarm. I'm saying some things seem to be pretty clear. And for example, as if I were retired and not, I grew up in Huntington Beach and lived in Santa Ana. If I was in either one of those places, I would move to the Big Bear. I'd literally go to the mountains, or maybe Joshua Tree, something like that. Why not? Nice place to be. And you have all the accommodations, amenities as things go forward. If nothing else happens that would speak to the fact of being in the tribulation. So you're just in a good location. And if you're kind of retired or whatever, like I said, my age, then that would seem like a pretty good fit. Definitely not to stay in where I grew up, Orange County, and lived before living in Tijuana for 15 years. So what's this all about? Well, I was thinking about Passover, even hearing all the screams in Egypt when the firstborn, and they all died, animals too, were killed by that angel. And unless they had the blood over the doorpost, the secret code. So pre-tribulation and the first half of tribulation will be warning the people. That seems kind of evident to me, that the two witnesses, that's what they would do, is they would warn the people. Because many of the signs, like the first two, are about the white horseman, which is the Antichrist, and has a quiver, but he doesn't have any arrows. That's the image, which is pretty amazing. It really is saying that he's a conqueror, and he doesn't do it by war. And that's a personified Antichrist, using a country. That would be China. So I'm not saying Xi Jinping is Antichrist, by the way, because I think no. But the country itself is the representation of the white horseman, where the country USA is of the red horseman. So there are some things already happening that way. And when back to even tribulation, pre-tribulation, 7 signs, and then the 7 trumpets, most of which happened during the time of the 2 witnesses, all but the 7th. So up until that, all of the signs and the 6 trumpets. So wouldn't it be cool if the 2 witnesses had information specific about, like the first trumpet, for example, seems to be like a meteor shower, because it says hail of fire, which would be rock with fire, and commingled blood, but that could be actually the meteor shower, that it has cyanide or sulfur in it, something like that. Or it could be hitting the humans and the animals and creating blood on the ground. That would be true too. But the point is that the first trumpet is a meteor shower, and it says 100% of the grass is burned up. That means it's all over the world. And 1/3 of the trees, so that's regional, where it really hits harder that way and burns up the trees, but all over the world, the grass. What's the point? Does that sound like it's just terrible and horrendous? Well, it could be, but if you're inside your home, or even better, underground in some form, then no problem, right? So if you have the exact information, the whole thing will pass over you. That's how the Passover is throughout first half of tribulation.